I noticed the chair because it scraped the floor on its own. Not hard, it's just enough to make a sound that didn't belong to anyone. I stopped chewing. I didn't look up right away. I waited, listening, trying to convince myself it came from somewhere else. No one reacted. That was the first thing that felt wrong. It's not the sound, it's the silence after it. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Thanksgiving at my parents' place was always loud. Plates clinking, someone talking over someone else, the TV murmuring in the background even when nobody was watching. Noise covered mistakes. Noise made things easy to miss. I finally looked up. There were 6 of us at the table, but 7 chairs. The empty one was near the end, angled slightly away, like someone had pushed it back to stand up and just hadn't come back yet. I remember thinking, we must be waiting for someone. I waited for someone else to notice. My sister kept talking about her drive over the carrier. My dad was carving the turkey too carefully, like he was concentrating on not slipping. My mom smiled too much, the way she does when she's trying to keep things pleasant. Nobody looked at the chair. I told myself it was nothing. Extra chair, extra place. People forget to move things. Still, my foot kept brushing against it under the table. It felt colder than the rest of the wood at the time. That didn't scare me. Dinner went on. I tried to ignore the way the chair never moved, even when people stood up. My dad got seconds. My sister went to grab more rolls. The chair stayed exactly where it was, like it was anchored to the floor at one point. My mom passed a plate straight across it. Her hand hovered for half a second longer than necessary. It's long enough for me to notice. Then she pulled back, smiling. Ken handed the plate to my dad instead. I wanted to ask who the chair was for. The words stayed in my throat. I don't know why. It felt rude, like asking would break some rule everyone else understood but me. I remember thinking, okay, I'll ask later. That mattered more than I realized. Halfway through dinner, my dad lifted his glass. He didn't say anything right away. He just stood there, holding it, eyes focused somewhere near the empty chair, but not quite on it. Well, he said, finally, then cleared his throat. For family. Everyone lifted their glasses. Even the chair was close enough that I almost reached toward it without thinking. That's when my stomach dropped, because for a split second, I was sure someone had lifted a glass there too. I didn't see it, felt. It dapped like pressure in the air, shifting. I laughed it off, quietly, by myself. I told myself I was tired, but I started paying attention after that. The chair creaked occasionally, not loud. It's just a subtle shift, like someone adjusting their weight. Every time it happened, conversation would dip for a moment. Nobody would look. Nobody would comment. Then everything would pick back up again, slightly louder than before. I tested it once. I reached out and nudged the chair with my knee. It didn't move. I pushed harder. Still, nothing. My sister kicked my shin under the table and hissed my name. "Stop," she said, smiling for everyone else. "Stop." "What?" I whispered. She didn't answer. Later, when we were clearing dishes, I tried again. I grabbed the back of the chair to move it out of the way. My hand froze. The wood was warm, not room temperature. Not from someone sitting there earlier. Warm, like someone had just stood up. I let go immediately. My mom noticed. "Just leave it," she said, too quickly. "I'll get it later." I didn't argue. That night, after everyone went to bed, I stood in the hallway and stared at the dining room. The chair was still there, pulled out, waiting. I told myself I was being ridiculous. I went to sleep anyway, sometime after midnight. I heard it again, that scraped, soft, careful, like whoever was sitting there didn't want to wake anyone. I stayed in bed. I held my breath. I waited for footsteps. None came. The next morning, the chair was pushed in. That scared me more than if it hadn't been. breakfast was quiet. My dad didn't meet my eyes. My mom kept rearranging things that were already straight. My sister avoided the dining room entirely. Finally, I asked, "Who was the extra chair for?" The room stopped, not dramatically, just enough to notice. My mom laughed. "Too fast." "What chair?" "The one at the table," I said. "We're 7. My dad set his mug down carefully. "We always said 7, he said. "For who?" I asked. No one answered. My sister looked at me then, really looked, her face drained of color. "You don't remember?" she whispered. That was the moment something inside me cracked. "Remember what?" said. She swallowed. Then she shook her head. "Never mind." That afternoon, found an old photo album in the hallway closet. I don't know why I opened it. Thanksgiving photos fell out first, year after year. Same table, same chairs, 7 plates, and always someone sitting in that chair. I stared until my eyes hurt. In every photo, the person's face was blurred. Not scratched out, not damaged, just wrong. Like the camera never quite focused there. I closed the album. I put it back. That night, as we sat down for leftovers, the chair scraped back again. This time, everyone heard it. Nobody reacted. I didn't sleep after that, because now, when I pass the dining room late at night, the chair isn't empty anymore, and I don't remember when it stopped being. My phone rang. I knew immediately it wasn't supposed to. Not because of the time, not because of the number, but because the sound came from behind me. I was standing alone in the kitchen, rinsing a plate that didn't really need rinsing, just trying to stay busy while everyone else argued in the living room. When the vibration hit the counter, I felt it through my hands before I fully heard it. I looked down. My phone screen lit up. Incoming call. No name, just my own number at the time. I laughed under my breath. Phones glitch. Contacts mess up. I told myself that before the second ring finished. Then I heard it again. The same ringtone behind me, coming from somewhere inside the house. "Hi." It froze. I didn't answer. I didn't turn around. I just stood there, staring at the screen until it stopped vibrating. The silence afterward felt heavier than the ringing. I told myself someone else's phone must have gone off at the same time. Same ringtone. Coincidence? Thanksgiving meant family, and family meant phones everywhere. Still, I slipped my phone into my pocket instead of setting it back down. That mattered later. Dinner that night felt longer than it should have. Everyone talked too loudly, like they were filling space on purpose. The TV was on again, muted but glowing, throwing light across the walls in a way that made shadows stretch longer than they should have. I sat at the table and kept noticing small things. My uncle checking his phone, even when it wasn't buzzing. My cousin flinching when the landline rang, then relaxing when it wasn't for us. My mom watching the hallway instead of the people she was talking to at the time. It didn't scare me, it just felt off, like everyone was reacting to something I couldn't hear yet. Halfway through dinner, my phone buzzed again. Same thing, my number. I didn't answer. I pushed my chair back slightly. Listening this time was no second ringtone in the room. That almost made it worse. I excused myself and went upstairs, pretending I needed the bathroom. The hallway felt narrower than I remembered, the walls closing in just a little as I walked. I checked my phone history. Missed call. From me, no voicemail. I stood there longer than necessary, staring at the screen, waiting for it to do something else. It didn't. When I came back down, everyone looked at me. Not all at once, not obviously, but one by one. Their eyes met mine, then slid away. I sat back down. No one asked where I'd been. The landline rang again during dessert. Everyone froze. My dad stood up slowly and answered it without speaking. I watched his face change. Not panic, not fear, recognition. He listened for a long time. Too long. when he finally hung up. My mom asked who it was. Dad shook his head. Wrong number, said, but his hands were shaking. Later that night, after plates were cleared and people started settling in, my cousin pulled me aside. Has your phone been acting weird? She asked quietly. I felt my stomach drop. Why? Said. She hesitated. Mine rang earlier. It was my voicemail greeting, playing back to me like someone had called and hung up without leaving a message. I didn't tell her about my number calling itself. I don't know why. Part of me didn't want to say it out loud. I went to bed early, but I didn't sleep. Sometime after midnight, my phone rang again. This time, answered. I don't know what I expected to hear. Breathing, static, silence. Instead, I heard the dining room, plates, tots, chairs, low voices overlapping, Thanksgiving dinner. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. I think you're calling the wrong. I started. My own voice cut me off. Not live, recorded, repeating something I'd said earlier. That night, a joke I barely remembered making. Then another voice. My mom, then my dad, layered over each other. Like the call couldn't decide which moment to play. I whispered, hello? The sound stopped for a second. There was nothing. Then I heard myself breathing, not through the phone. In the hallway, I hung up and didn't move. I counted my breaths. I listened. The floorboard outside my room creaked, slow, careful, like someone trying not to be noticed. I didn't open the door in the morning. Nobody mentioned the cause. Breakfast happened like normal, too normal. When I asked my dad if the phone company had issues, he shook his head. We unplugged it last night, he said. I laughed nervously. But it rang, I said. No, he replied. It didn't. That afternoon, I checked the landline. It was unplugged, the cord coiled neatly beside it. That night, a phone rang again, same number. I didn't answer. Instead, I watched the screen light up, hand light up, and light up dot, each ring longer than the last dot. Then a voicemail notification appeared. I opened it. No audio, just one line of text beneath it. Still here. I left the house early the next morning. I didn't say goodbye. Even now, months later, still get calls sometimes. Always from my own number, always during dinner. I never answer anymore, because last time I did, heard someone pull out a chair and say my name like I was late. No one noticed when the extra chair scraped the floor. That's what scared me later, because I was sitting close enough to hear it. Thanksgiving dinner had already started. We'd finished saying grace. Everyone murmured amen in the room, relaxed the way it always did after pretending to be grateful out loud. Our forks clinked. Someone laughed too hard at a joke that didn't land. That's when I heard it. A chair being pulled back, slow, careful, like whoever was doing it didn't want attention. I looked up automatically, expecting to see someone late joining the table. There was no one standing, but there was an extra chair now, right there between my aunt and my younger brother at the time. I honestly thought I'd just missed it earlier. Big table, lots of people. It's easy to overlook one more seat. Still, my stomach tightened for a second. Okay, then relaxed. I told myself it was nothing. The plates started moving again. Turkey passed, mashed potatoes. Someone asked for more gravy. Then the chair moved again, just slightly. The sound was unmistakable. Wood on hardwood. My brother glanced at the empty space beside him and frowned. Did someone get up? Asked. No, my aunt said, not looking. Eat while it's hot. The chair stopped. I watched it longer than I should have. Nothing else happened. Dinner went on, but every few minutes, something felt delayed, like reactions were half a second late. Laughter came after jokes had already died. Answers arrived before questions finished. At the time, didn't scare me. It just felt wrong. Halfway through the meal, my uncle raised his glass. Before dessert, he said, I just want to say how good it feels to have everyone here this year. Everyone nodded. He continued, even the ones we didn't expect. The room went quiet. I waited for him to laugh. He D-end single quotes, too, instead. He tilted his glass toward the empty chair. "Glad you could make it," he said. A few people chuckled, uncomfortable. I didn't, because the chair shifted, just a little, like someone settling into it. My heart started beating harder. I looked around the table. No one else reacted. Conversation slowly resumed, but softer now, like everyone was afraid to raise their voice. I leaned toward my mom. "Do you see that?" I whispered. She nodded once, didn't look at me. "Don't stare," she whispered back. That was the moment I realized something was very wrong. Dessert came out late. Pumpkin pie, already sliced, plates appearing from the kitchen, one by one. Mom set a plate down in front of the empty chair. She froze. Then she adjusted it, centered it properly, like she'd done it 100 times before. I felt cold. My cousin finally spoke up. "Who's that for?" No one answered. My mom sat down, picked up her fork, and said, "Let's not start this again." Again, the word stuck with me. I stared at the empty chair until my eyes hurt. That's when I noticed the indentation. The seat cushion was compressed, like someone heavy was sitting there, but there was nothing to see. No shadow, no movement, just space. My brother suddenly pushed his plate away. "I'm not hungry anymore," he said. His voice was shaking. My aunt reached over and squeezed his arm. "He doesn't like being stared at," he said. I looked at her. I asked. She met my eyes for the first time all night, and I swear, for just a second. She looked terrified. "Eat," she said softly. "Please." I didn't. I couldn't. The air felt thick now, like the room was holding its breath. Every sound seemed louder. Every movement felt watched. Then I heard chewing, slow, coming from the empty chair. I clutched the edge of the table. My pulse thudded in my ears. No one else reacted. The sound continued, bite after bite. Then a fork scraped against a plate, the empty plate. My uncle stood up suddenly. "That's enough," he said, voice breaking. "We talked about this." He looked directly at the chair. I said this year was different. The chair shifted again, more forcefully this time. The table trembled. My mom whispered, "Please don't." My uncle swallowed hard. "You can't keep doing this," he said. "You're not." Something slammed the underside of the table. Hard silverware rattled. Plates jumped. Everyone screamed at once. The chair flew backward, hit the wall, and fell. Over the indentation, disappeared. The room went silent, except for our breathing. No one moved. Finally, my dad spoke. "He's gone," he said. No one argued. We cleaned up in silence. No one mentioned the chair. No one asked questions. Later that night, I cornered my mom in the kitchen. "Who was that?" I whispered. She closed her eyes. "Someone who never misses Thanksgiving," she said. I waited. She didn't continue. "Why now?" I asked. Her voice cracked. "Because you're old enough to notice." I slept with the door locked. Sometime after midnight, I heard the chair again, dragging, slow, careful, stopping right outside my room. I didn't open the door. I didn't breathe. In the morning, the chair was back at the table, clean, pulled in, like it had never moved. We ate breakfast without it. No one mentioned Thanksgiving dinner. I left early. I don't go back for holidays anymore, but every year, around Thanksgiving, I wake up to the sound of a chair scraping the floor and a place being made for me. If you're listening to this on Thanksgiving night, take a look around your table. Count the chairs, because some guests don't need an invitation, and they always remember where they sat.